Hello, welcome to the Elevate Your Wellbeing podcast. I am so happy and excited to sit down with you this week because I'm trying something new. This was recommended, and as soon as I heard it, I so fell in love with it. And I'd love to know if this is something you would like me to do more of. I'm thinking max once a month, um, sort of roll with this particular focus. If you would like me to do it a little less, sort of maybe every 6 weeks or every couple of months, then yeah, do let me know. All the details are in the show notes. But before I jump into today's episode, make sure you have a journal. That could be a notebook, or it could be a app on your phone to take notes. It could be something on your computer to take notes. Whether you take notes from this one, you might do as well. But I also share a journal prompt at the end, so you may want to dive into that at the end. But this one I think could really, really resonate. So make sure that you also have some water. It's really important to stay hydrated. And as this episode goes up on the Friday, we have a full moon coming up on Tuesday, 1st of August, which is in the sign of Aquarius. And this is all about our relationships with other people. And I think what I'm sharing in this week's episode really lands because it really is about our relationships with other people. And this is a book review episode. And this is what I'm saying, is this something you would really like me to continue doing? So I do this at least once a month, or max once a month. I wouldn't do more, it might be every 6th episode or maybe every 8th episode. You might be really intrigued on a book that I've read, and then what you get from my takeaways might be enough, or you might be like, yes, I need to read that book. Now, when I was introduced to this idea as a Gemini who loves to read, I was like, yes, this is amazing, because I really do honor the power of reading. Now, I don't always do this every day. Sometimes I actually get longer spats. So something I actually learned from my mentor Balaj was the power of reading 10 pages a day. Now, like with any habit, you might be like, oh my God, 10 pages is a lot. You might literally read a page a day. And then sometimes we're like, well, what's the point? It's only a page. Why even bother doing it at all? And it just gets you rolling. It's like, why not start somewhere? Something is always better than nothing. So, it's getting you started. And there really is something in reading 10 pages a day. Now, this is not reading fiction. Fiction could be really easy. One of my mentors, she actually reads, if she can, twice a day. So she reads like a business, like a growth book in the morning, and then she'll read fiction in the evening. And I have tried that before myself. Maybe it'll work for you, which is why I wanted to mention it. But I've really gone into that full like throttle mode of, I just want to learn so much. And when I did consume a lot of fiction books, it was from a place of almost wanting to escape my reality. And now I'm like, I just want to know what else I can do and how I can optimize things, or why we do certain things, and how I can improve on certain areas, or how I can learn about slightly different things to help you either hear and listen to my podcast, or if we work together as a, if you're my client and I'm your coach. How I can, make sure that I've got information for you. And there's another mentor, and I know I've started to like drip feed some of my mentors, so I will be going through them a little bit more, but I'm keeping it stum, because the person's book that I'm talking about today is a coach, is a mentor of mine, and I started working with her more directly the beginning of this year, and I've absolutely loved every second of it. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, firstly, thank you very much, not only because you're listening to it, but because of the title. You might be intrigued, or you might have been put off, because it is a book review, and I've literally put my 3 self-care lessons that I've learned from reading a business book. And I really want to highlight, it's still that well-being, that self-care that I'm focusing on the podcast, even though I do run businesses, even though I do business coaching. So if you've been like listening to this because you're interested in well-being, a lot of the two really blend in together. How you do one thing is usually how you do everything. So how you do your business is usually how you do everything else. How you run your Household is usually how you do everything else. How you look after your body is usually how you do everything else. So if you're not looking after your well-being, then maybe you're not looking after your business as well as you could. And your business could also be a career as well. So you obviously want to optimize everything so it runs efficiently. So the book I'm reviewing, it's actually two books in one. The first one I did read back in 2020. So this is a book that got me through the beginning part of 2020 and I devoured it. So it's Chillpreneur by Denise Duffield Thomas. Chillpreneur. And then more recently, it was republished as Chill and Prosper. So it is very much a business focused book. But as you can tell, really, the chillpreneur, the chill and prosper, it's like literally the tagline for the first one for chillpreneur was new rules for creating success, freedom, and abundance on your terms. And then for chill and prosper, she did change the tagline to the new way to grow your business, make millions, and change the world. So but it's also from that perspective of how can we do things in a more relaxed way? And I'm very much of the letting go of the hustle culture. I am not here for the hustle culture. If it's like, go, 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 I'll sleep when I'm dead, then let it go. If you're very fixed on that and this is not the place for you, because that's not welcome here. I am all on board with the chillpreneur, and this is what really helped, I think, kickstart me into the coaching world. I had first started getting coaching or mentoring in 2018, and I had a coach at the end of 2019 as we moved into 2020. So I'm not 100% sure how Denise came into my world. I do know someone through the coaching I did in 2019. We were grouped up, and one of the people I was grouped up with, she, I believe at the time, was aware of Denise's work if she wasn't already in her boot camp. And so whether I learned about Denise through her, but this is the first book I really wanted to highlight because it's 3 self-care lessons that I have learned from her book, and I am going to dive into them right now. So the first one is she called it a money block because obviously she's working from a money mindset perspective and does bring it into how it works with running a business. But the first one is you have to work really hard to make money. So you might have grown up and heard things like money doesn't grow on trees, you don't get something for nothing, another day, another dollar. And you might have this work hard mindset, this block that if you're not working hard, then you don't deserve to get the reward, for example. You might be overcomplicating things. So you're burning out, you're burning the candle at both ends. And I love how Denise writes her books because she also puts quotes in. So it's getting other people's perspective. And then she also gets sort of testimonials within, like drip fed with each section of the book, which I really enjoyed. And this particular quote with working harder doesn't always work is from Ariana Huffington, which is, we think mistakenly that success is the result of the amount of time we put in at work instead of the quality of time we put in. So I'll say that again. We think mistakenly that success is the result of the amount of time we put in instead of the quality of time. So this is something that always comes up between me and my hairdresser because I think she's very aware that I love this mindset of you don't have to work hard to make money, but it's also valuing the quality of what you're doing. So like me, she's been in business for over 10 years. And every now and then she'll get someone like question her rate, which I think is really reasonable. It's actually very similar to mine for like an hourly rate, for example. Like if I'm teaching a corporate yoga class, for example, and she's doing your hair appointment, Actually, I think she's charging less than me going on that because you're with her for an hour and a half to 2 hours. But someone will go, okay, so you can do that in that amount of time. Or if she does it for less, she doesn't discount it because you've still got the value of how quickly she can do it. She's got 10 plus years experience. So it's not about, oh, you can do that really quickly, so you shouldn't charge me that amount. But she has actually had people question that. And one, I think that's bloody rude and it's disrespectful. But it's highlighting, okay, so when I'm training and it's taking me twice as long, should I charge you twice as much? No, because like if you go to the hairdressers, and this is something I will be talking about a little bit more next week on a slightly different topic, but if you go to the hairdressers, you could have the apprentice, you could have a general stylist, you could have a senior stylist, you could even have the manager do your hair. You're going to pay more as you go up in the ranks of who's doing your hair because they have the most experience. They might not take as long to do your hair, but you're going to pay them more for it. And this is the thing, is that quality of time you put in. How much quality of the time are you putting in? So you could work. This is why I love things like the Pomodoro technique and habit stacking. Because if you're putting that quality of time in, you're really honing in and focusing, that focus on one thing method, the foot method that I highlight on one of my previous episodes. You are putting all that effort in, and you could do it really quickly. Like you could have a really successful career or a really successful business, but you don't have to work the typical 9 to 5, 5 days a week, because you are putting the quality into what you're doing. So first one is that hard work is a block or can be a block, but work can be easy. And sometimes it's that awareness of actually, we feel like we're being lazy. A lot of people I know, a lot of my clients that are listening to this episode can really resonate with this because they've been told that you're just being lazy if you're not doing something. It's getting over and working through that belief that if you're not doing something productive, that you're being lazy. And ironically, my daughter decided to wake up. So I'm going to do a little pause and see if I can calm them down and come back. So coming back to what I was chatting about before, the dogs maybe have a little pause. So if you feel like if you're not doing something productive, you're being lazy, that can be a mindset shift that we can work through. And this can come down to anything. It doesn't have to necessarily be in your business. It's even giving ourselves the time to pause, that time to rest, which is necessary. I know so many people that come to me when they're in that starting point of getting coaching, that they find it hard to relax because they have this mentality of you're lazy if you just sit down for like 2 seconds. And as a business owner, or even in your home, I think there's so many ways that you can really be useful with this. This is where systems can come into play. Like rather than having the most complicated setup and getting overwhelmed, you could actually have systems in place to make your business easy. You could have systems in place to make like optimize what you're doing at home. So people know, like, rather than the kids going, Mom, 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 what's dinner? What's the dinner? What's the dinner? You're like, it's Tuesday, we're having this. Have things set up to make it as super simple as possible. So first lesson for self-care is you're not being lazy by taking that time out for you. The second self-care lesson that I learned from reading this business book was the power of batching. Batching gives you more freedom, not less. And there are so many things that can really restrict you if you're completely new to batching. And I resisted it for years because I didn't really understand it. And like I've spoken on a recent podcast, some things are drip fed to you, but it's not necessarily the right time for you to start implementing it. So I've always been aware of this concept, as it were, of batching, but I didn't really take the time to learn about how to really utilize it. And like I mentioned on that the first one about you aren't lazy and there's ways that you can set systems up. This really rolls into batching, because batching is a way that you can systemize what you do, whether that's batching cooking, or whether you're doing certain tasks at the same time. I even do this when I go out. I'm like, if I'm going out there, then it makes sense for me to go there because it's around the corner, for example. So there are times when, if I'm going out and having one-to-ones in person, I'm like, well, I'm out. So I could go and pick up these things from the grocery store, or I could go and top my petrol up in the car. I'm not going to go out because I need petrol in the car. I'm going to go out and get the petrol in the car because I'm already out. Or if I teach a particular class in a particular area, I'm like, it's literally around the corner from that shop. I'm going to go and get the things I need from that shop because I'm already there. And that is a form of batching. So you're not going out of your way going, oh, I've got to go out and do this. That's when you end up losing time, because you haven't put in place these systems to make things easy. And I love that, again, Denise highlights different lessons within the book. And that lesson, I've already read it out, is batching gives you more freedom, not less. So it actually gives you time because you stay focused. You're not switching from different things. Your brain takes a while to catch up. So even if you're like, right, I'm going to let go of that and then I'm going to do this. And I do this right now. Like, I am recording my 4th podcast episode in a row. I already have an idea for the upcoming podcast episode. Depending on the time I finish this, I might record it. I then will batch when I do the rest, the back end of the processing. So when I upload it and put everything else together, those of you that listen, I'll say on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you get the introduction, you get the end jingle, which you don't get on YouTube, but I still have to upload that and schedule it. So I'll do that all at the same time. When I write newsletters, I will write all of them at the same time, even though I do kind of switch context a little bit. I send out 3 newsletters a week, depending on what you are on my mailing list for. But I will write those 3 newsletters one after the other, and then they're scheduled. So I don't have to think, right, what do I want to write for my newsletter this week? Because then they're done. And I try and do these at the beginning of the week so that by the end of the week, I can really unwind and relax, to the point where I believe it was, as I'm recording this last week, I was teaching one of my corporate clients, and I'm highlighting that I was moving another corporate client from a Thursday to a Wednesday, so that I had my 3 corporates, one on Monday, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday. And that gave me the opportunity to have a longer weekend. And they were like, oh, what, you have like 4 days off? And I was like, no, but it actually gives me the opportunity to do that because I can move other things around. Those 3 things are a little bit more rigid. So it gives me more flexibility. Like, I'm batching them closer together. Unfortunately, they're not the type of things I can batch and do all in one day, but it's the same thing. It's keeping things together. You don't have to be on 24 hours a day. So batching and things like automation, like your system, gives you more time to chill. So once they're set up, so sometimes we hold ourselves back because we don't know how to set things up. This is something I really love to do. This is where I come in more as a business coach. And there are elements, like I've already been highlighting, that it can still drip through into your personal life with elements such as batching or systems. But it's, how can you optimize what you do so you're not wasting time, you're not losing time, you're being as productive as possible. So when you do have that downtime, you aren't being lazy because everything is done and you can really be present with relaxing. How amazing would that feel? And that's where I come in as a business coach. I can get you set up on those systems, because sometimes that's where we resist it because we're like, oh, I don't know how to do it. But it's putting it off. You're just delaying the possibility of more freedom. Yes, you need some time in the beginning. This is where you either choose easy or you choose hard. Easy to start with means it's harder later down the line. Hard up the front at the beginning will mean it's easier down the line. Yes, setting up something new. I've highlighted, I think last week it was about getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah, getting out of your comfort zone was last week's episode. learning something new, setting up something new can be getting yourself out of your comfort zone. And if I'm completely new to something, it takes me a while. I can get frustrated. But then I remember my why. And speaking about this on the Refocus masterclass, always coming back to your why. What is driving you to do the thing you're doing? And it's like, I want to create more freedom. And I know that by spending an hour or two, maybe longer, depending on what I'm setting up, can then create that down the line. Because once it's done, like there are things now that I have set up that I can literally duplicate it and make a slight tweak, like maybe a couple of words, rather than recreating the whole thing. So an hour up front has then saved me countless hours down the line. This is where batching really, really helps. So what can you do that, oh, this is similar, so I'm going to do it all at the same time? And, to keep it really simple, it could be like food prep. It could even just be planning your meals. Like, let's actually sit down, plan our meals together, then write the shopping list, and then you might go and do the shopping, or you might place the order online because everything's been done together rather than, I'm going to do this right now, and then I'm going to move on to something completely different. And the last one is my favorite one because this really does relate to everyone. You are the golden goose. When I first read this chapter, I absolutely loved it. It's called Protecting the Golden Goose. And the quote that Denise has put in this chapter at the very beginning is from Michelle Obama. And it's, we need to do a better job of putting ourselves higher on our own to-do list. We need to do a better job of putting ourselves higher on our own to-do list. I'd be willing to bet that maybe you aren't even on your to-do list. I've got all these things to do, and then maybe I'll get a look in. You deserve to be, you need to be that priority, because if you are not on it, if you are not feeling your best, that ripples out into the rest of your day. So you need to put yourself on that to-do list. I need to sit down and make sure I'm present with my journaling practice, or just being present with how I'm feeling whilst I have my morning cup of coffee. Whatever it is, it can be really super simple. And this is something that we work through as a coach together. If I'm working as your coach, we can really go in and go, right, what can you do to really optimize getting yourself on that to-do list? And if you know the story of the golden goose, it's basically a farmer has this golden goose, and every day it lays one golden egg, and then he gets a little bit greedy and decides he wants all of them at once, cuts open the goose and finds nothing but blood and guts. So he sabotaged this incredible form of income because he wants it all now. How often have you done that? You have pushed yourself to give more when it really wasn't possible. So you burnt out. That's essentially what you're doing as the golden goose. But you need to honor what you're capable of. This is what I can do right now. And it's tough if you're in that employee mindset. And this is huge if you run your own business. We very much, a lot of us come from this employee mindset of being pushed, having these different expectations on us, and they're not always realistic. I can really remember with bosses, and it's like, oh, I think you could do more than that. I think you could give 10% more. And it's like, really? Really? Why not be happy with what I'm doing now? That's actually hitting what I need to hit. If I'm hitting my targets and, money's coming in, staff is happy, whatever it is, why, yes, we should strive. And yes, again, it's making sure that we're getting that compound effect, we're seeing improvements. But sometimes if you are pushing yourself beyond that capacity, then you're actually not respecting your boundaries. And I think this is ironic. There's this like affirmation a day calendar that I have. And I might highlight this as my next book review, actually, which is linked. This calendar is put together by this particular author. I won't mention them in this particular episode, just so I keep it straight with it. It's just Denise that I'm chatting about today. But this particular affirmation for today is, if you're flexible with your boundaries, people will be flexible with how they treat you. If you're flexible with your boundaries, people will be flexible with how they treat you. And this is the key takeaway with You Are the Golden Goose. You know when to say no, but you may feel that you can't. And it's just reaffirming your boundaries. What can you deliver? And I really love the again, the lesson for this particular chapter is you're allowed to have boundaries. And there are three ways that Denise highlights that you can protect your golden goose. So one is to take imperfect action. I can hear all the type A's listening to this shudder. And I know it's hard when you strive to put your best in, but if you wait for perfection, a lot of things won't get done. If you wait for perfection, a lot of things won't get done. And the quote in here, no one, it's listed as unknown with who said this, but there are people less qualified than you are that are doing the things that you want to do simply because they've decided to believe in themselves. So striving to do something is better than not doing it because you are worried that it's not going to be perfect. And this is a big lesson that I've had to go through. I can still remember as a child. So I know I was less than 12 because it was with my nan who passed away, I think, when I was 11 or 12. So I was a lot younger than that. And she was trying to teach me how to knit. And I made a mistake. Now, if anyone's ever knitted anything before, like crocheted, I imagine similar, that you can just unpick the mistake and then carry on. You don't have to ditch the whole thing. But for whatever reason, I had that mentality of, no, it's all wrong. I literally pulled the thread, went past the mistake, and I unpulled the whole thing. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I made a mistake. That's where that imperfect action comes in. You have to keep trying. And I hear so many people, even on the yoga mat, this is how I know from my experience of being a yoga teacher, where I can really come in and help you as a coach, because I hear it so often that, oh, I can't do that. And hopefully, if you have ever attended a yoga class with me, you've finished that sentence already for me. But if you're completely new to me, I always then add on the word yet. If someone ever says to me, oh, I can't do that, I will always add the word yet. If you're completely new to something, if you've never tried before, if you're just learning, no, you're not going to be able to do it yet, or you're not going to be able to do it perfectly yet, but taking action is what is needed. You don't need another plan. You don't need to learn something else. You don't need a detour. You don't need to get attached to the next shiny object. Take imperfect action. And it can feel really challenging. Remember last week's episode, getting out of your comfort zone? Maybe it's taking imperfect action. The second one with that is knowing when to quit or to pivot. And again, that can be hard. You know, if you've ever had the belief of you've made your bed, now you lie in it. And we can't change our mind. You've chosen that. It's a tough luck. That's what you picked. So you've got to eat it, sort of thing. If you've had that with food, I can remember hearing that when I was a kid. I don't know if that was from my mum or from like older family members. But you are allowed to quit because you're allowed to change your mind. Now I know, you might have heard the saying that you only fail when you quit. But there is also power in going, I don't want to waste the next 10 years of my life because that's what I thought I wanted. Whereas if I can shift, and I never really see it as quitting, it's always pivoting in my head. It's a slight change. I'm not quitting being a yoga teacher, but I don't see that's what I offer in the way I did when I first opened my yoga studio. I'm slightly pivoting, I'm shifting, and you're allowed to do the same as well, because it's honoring what you are creating for yourself in the future. And then the last one on this one, which I absolutely love, is stop doing it yourself. You can't protect the golden goose that you are. You are important. You're doing it all, especially those of you that are listening to this that are mums. No disrespect for the dads, unless you are a single dad. Shout out to my brother, because he's done that for a long time. He has got a fabulous partner now, but he has done that for a long time where, it's the sole person doing everything. You're going to burn out. So you need to delegate. You need to ditch something, or you need to delay something. And I've highlighted this over a few episodes. It's what can you put a pin in? What can you pause? What doesn't need to be done now? and that's honoring and protecting yourself as the golden goose. And I would really highlight recommending, I really highlight reading this one. I don't think you can get Chillpreneur anymore. Chill and Prosper is a new updated version anyway, because of how the world went not long after. I believe Chillpreneur was originally released or published in 2019, and obviously the world completely changed the following year. I'm also very excited because I'm actually meeting Denise in Bristol in November. So I've highlighted 3 of my mentors now. 2 of them I am meeting this year, which I'm really excited about. All 3 of these people I have worked with in their coaching program. So I am in Money Bootcamp, which is Denise Autonomous's main sort of training platform, and it is all around money mindset, but a lot of it really resonates and relates to other things. So I really hope that you enjoyed this particular episode, going into a bit of a book review, 3 self-care lessons I've learned from reading a business book. If you would like to go and check out Denise and any of her offerings, she's on Instagram, Denise BT, and I will link in her book as well. If you would like me to do more of these book reviews, do let me know, and I will sit down with you next week. But before we go, I want you just to reflect for your journal prompt. Which one of these lessons could you take away and start implementing? So could you honor putting yourself on that to-do list? Honoring that you're not lazy by taking that time to rest. Maybe it's doing a form of batching so that you can actually create more time for yourself, or honoring that you are that golden goose, that you don't have to do everything, that you can change your mind, that you don't have to do everything perfect, you just need to take action. And if you would like to share your takeaway, I would love to hear from you. You can contact me through the details in the show notes, whether that's through email or share on your socials and give me a little tag. And I look forward to sitting down with you next week.